There is a moment in every person's life when the noise gets too loud. The opinions, the expectations, the pressures, the endless race to be someone, to become something. And in that chaos, we lose the signal. The still voice inside us, the one that whispers truth, gets drowned out by the world shouting who we're supposed to be. But the truth, the life you want, the one you ache for, when the lights are off, when the applause dies, when no one's watching, that life was never outside of you. It's not in some future version of yourself. It's not locked in someone else's approval. It's not found in money, fame, followers, or even the right opportunity. It's buried deep beneath the surface, waiting to be remembered. You were not born to chase worth. You were born with it. It's in your breath. It's in your presence. It's in your scars and stories and silent battles no one knows about. The problem is we've been taught to look outward for what can only be found within. We were trained to run from ourselves, to measure success by how far we can escape our true nature, when all along the gold has been hiding beneath our feet. Ask Edison, who failed over 1,000 times before lighting up the world. He didn't find the answer in textbooks or trends. He found it through relentless belief that his light would come. Ask Disney, who was fired for lacking imagination, the very thing that would later paint entire generations in magic and color. Ask Oprah, born into poverty, told she would never be enough, yet she turned her pain into power, her wounds into wisdom, and built an empire out of truth. They didn't become successful. They became themselves. And that's the secret. You don't attract the life you want by pretending. You attract it by becoming radically real. You attract it when you decide finally to stop running from your reflection. You see, the people who changed the world, the ones we admire, quote, and try to emulate, they all made one terrifying, beautiful decision. They stopped outsourcing their power. They stopped blaming the world for what they hadn't built yet. They stopped waiting for the perfect conditions. And they started creating from within. They understood something most people spend a lifetime avoiding. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe you deserve. Belief isn't some vague concept. It's the architect of your reality. What you believe shapes what you see. And what you see defines what you build. And what you build becomes your life. So the question isn't, what do I want? The real question is, what do I believe is possible for me? Most people are walking around with $1 million dreams and $1 self-worth. They talk about goals with conviction, but deep down, they still believe they're not enough, not ready, not talented, not worthy. But here's the truth they never tell you in school. Self-worth isn't found, it's forged. In the quiet hours when you show up, even when no one claps. In the moments when fear screams louder than faith, but you move anyway. In the 1,000 silent victories no one sees but you. Because belief isn't built in comfort, it's born in resistance. That's why the gym builds muscle. That's why fire purifies gold. That's why adversity carves depth. So if life feels heavy right now, if you're walking through fire, through rejection, through delay or heartbreak, understand this. It's not punishment. It's preparation. It's the universe asking, do you really want it? Are you ready to become the person your vision requires you to be? Because success doesn't respond to wishing. It responds to alignment. And alignment only comes when your actions, thoughts, and identity are all vibrating on the same frequency. Not the frequency of who you used to be, but the one who's already living the life you crave. The question is, are you willing to let go of who you were to become who you could be? Are you brave enough to shed the roles, the masks, the stories, so you can finally meet the version of yourself that's been waiting on the other side of fear? Because that version, they don't hustle for their worth. They don't need applause to breathe. They know they were born for something more and they move like it. The real ones, the legends, they're not loud because they need attention. They're loud because their soul won't let them stay silent anymore. They don't rise because the world makes it easy. They rise because not rising would be betrayal to who they are, to who they could be, to the people who need their light. You want to change your life? Start with this. You don't need more motivation. You need truth. Motivation fades. Truth endures. Motivation says, try harder. Truth says, remember who you are, because who you are at your core is not confused, not broken, not lost, not unworthy. That voice inside you, the one that speaks in quiet certainty, not noise, that's your compass. But we've been trained to ignore it, taught to fit in instead of stand out, conditioned to stay safe, not true. And we call that wisdom, but it's just fear in disguise. So we follow paths we didn't choose. We climb ladders that lead to empty rooms. We wear masks that smile while our soul screams. But eventually, something cracks. A breakup, a breakdown, a burnout, a betrayal. And that's the gift, isn't it? Because rock bottom isn't the end. It's the beginning, the place where illusions die and authenticity is born. Lincoln faced failure after failure and lost more elections than most of us will ever run. But he didn't need approval to know who he was becoming. Ford didn't wait for permission to invent the future. He dared to dream it into motion. What about you? What are you waiting for? A sign? A perfect plan? A crowd that cheers for you before you've even started? You are the sign. You are the strategy. You are the source. The life you want, it doesn't live out there. It lives in your next decision. Not your next degree, not your next follower, not your next paycheck. Your next decision to choose discipline over distraction, clarity over confusion, faith over fear, truth over comfort. That's when the shift happens. That's when the world starts moving out of your way, not because it got easier, but because you got louder, not louder in noise, louder in alignment, louder in how your life speaks before your words do. There is a moment in every journey where you realize success is not about speed. It's about direction. We live in a world obsessed with faster. Faster money, faster fame, faster results. But the oak tree doesn't rush. The mountain doesn't hurry. And the sun doesn't apologize for taking its time to rise. Real power is patient. Edison failed over 1,000 times before he found the light, but he didn't call them failures. He called them steps. He understood something most people miss. You don't achieve your dream, you become it. Step by step, failure by lesson, choice by character. You can't skip the becoming. You can't cheat the growth. Because what comes fast leaves faster, and what's built on ego crumbles under pressure. But what's built in truth? What's built in silence, in prayer, in grit, in purpose? That lasts. That speaks after you're gone. So don't envy those who rise quickly. Don't compare your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 22. You're not behind. You're not late. You're becoming, and becoming is messy. It's not linear. It's not glamorous. It's not always visible, but it's sacred because every great life is built in invisible moments. The 5 a.m. alarms no one sees. The rejections that made you hungrier. The heartbreaks that taught you compassion. The sacrifices no one clapped for. That's where the life you want is born. Not in the highlight reels, but in the moments you chose to keep going when quitting would have been easier. That's discipline. And discipline isn't punishment. It's devotion. Devotion to a future version of you that's watching right now, hoping you don't give up. So stay the path. You won't always feel ready, but ready is a myth. Willing is what changes everything. Because once you truly decide who you are, the world doesn't stand a chance. You don't chase success anymore. You attract it by who you become in the process. And that version of you, they're not someday, they're already inside you. The world will try to name you, box you, define you. They'll say you're too much or not enough, too soft, too intense, too ambitious, too different. But labels are limits, and you weren't made to live in anyone else's definition. You were made to discover your own, because clarity doesn't come from sitting still, overthinking, or waiting for a lightning bolt. Clarity comes from movement, from stepping out of your comfort zone, not once, but consistently, from doing the thing you fear until it no longer owns you, from listening to the whispers of your soul before the world drowns them out. Look at every person who ever changed the world. They didn't wait for clarity to begin. They created it by beginning. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't wait for a guarantee. He stepped into uncertainty, armed only with conviction. Mother Teresa didn't chase applause. She followed purpose, even when it meant walking into the shadows of suffering. You want a clear path? Create one with your courage, your consistency, and your values. Because the clearer your purpose becomes, the quieter the noise around you gets. That's when you stop asking for validation. That's when you stop living for applause. That's when you stop shape-shifting just to be liked. Because when you are clear on who you are, you become unshakable. You no longer fear losing people who can't handle your light. You stop dimming to make others comfortable. You stop hiding because of what they might say. Because clarity is freedom. Freedom from the lie that you have to be everything for everyone. Freedom from the belief that your worth is based on your performance. Freedom from the fear that you're running out of time. You're right on time for your mission. And clarity isn't just about what you want, it's about what you're here to give. Because when you make your life about something bigger than just you, the doubts shrink, the fears fade, the weight lifts. You realize the life you want isn't just about comfort, success, or even happiness. It's about contribution. It's about service. It's about using your voice to lift others, your scars to heal others, your story to remind others they're not alone. That's the life you're here to live. Not a life of survival, but of significance. And that doesn't start when you make it. It starts right now with the decision to stop waiting, to start living from the inside out, from the soul out, from truth out. Because once you do that, you don't just create the life you want, you become the person the world needs. The people we admire most, the ones who carved their names into time, they weren't born special. They were just willing to do what most weren't. Abraham Lincoln was born into a one-room log cabin. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Oprah was told she was unfit for TV. Muhammad Ali was mocked before he was crowned. They all had one thing in common. They believed before the world did. They saw value where others saw risk. They saw light where others saw dark. They saw themselves when no one else did. And that's your job too. To see the vision before there's proof. To hold the belief before there's applause. To walk by faith, not just by evidence. Because the truth is, you're not waiting on your potential. Your potential is waiting on you, waiting on your discipline, your consistency, your commitment to showing up even when it's hard, boring, or thankless. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It's the path to it. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So build rituals that reflect your values. Build mornings that prime your spirit. Build boundaries that protect your peace. And stop negotiating with your lower self, because the world doesn't need more people who can talk about their goals. It needs more people becoming them. Every time you show up when it's hard, you prove to the universe that you're serious. Every time you do the right thing when no one's watching, you write a new chapter in your legacy. This is not about perfection. It's about alignment. When your actions match your truth, that's when life begins to flow. That's when you stop swimming upstream and start co-creating with life itself. But you have to decide, are you going to repeat old patterns or rise into your potential? You don't need another book. You don't need another video. You don't need another plan. You need to become the person who no longer needs convincing, because the life you want isn't waiting out there somewhere. It's already inside you, waiting for you to stop hesitating, stop shrinking, stop postponing your purpose. Now is the time, not when you feel ready, not when it's perfect. Now, because the people who change their lives aren't the ones who had the best plan. They're the ones who moved when something inside them said, this is not who I'm meant to be. And that voice inside you, it's right. You were made for more. And the more you're searching for has always been waiting inside you. You see, the world doesn't change when you succeed. The world changes when you awaken. When you stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what will happen if I don't answer this calling? Because someone out there needs your courage. Someone is praying for the strength that you already carry. And every time you rise, you silently give them permission to do the same. You become a mirror of what's possible, a lighthouse in someone else's storm. Not because you had it easy, but because you chose not to quit. And that's what legacy is. Legacy isn't just about what you leave behind. It's about what you ignite in others while you're still here. It's not in the numbers. It's in the moments, the unseen sacrifices, the quiet battles, the times you chose growth over comfort. It's built every day in how you show up, in what you tolerate, in the standard you hold not just for others, but for yourself. Because you will never rise higher than the standard you accept. So raise them, speak with intention, move with purpose, live with integrity, not when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Let your life be a sermon of strength, a love letter to discipline, a declaration that says, I was here, I mattered, I chose truth over approval and vision over fear. That's what the world is hungry for. Not more perfection, not more noise, but more realness, more depth, more soul. And that doesn't come from chasing, comparing, or performing. It comes from returning to who you were before the world told you who to be. Peel back the noise, silence the critics, look yourself in the mirror. And remember, you are not broken. You are becoming, you are not behind. You are building. You are not small. You are starting. And every day that you choose to keep going, every day you choose healing over hiding, service over silence, action over anxiety, you are winning in ways no one can measure. Because success is not about what you have. It's about who you are when no one is watching. It's about whether the person you are in the dark matches the light you shine in the world. That's character. That's soul. That's impact. And that is what the life you truly want is made of. The life you want isn't built on luck. It's sculpted from love. Not the soft, fleeting kind that fades when it's inconvenient, but the fierce, unwavering kind that chooses to show up again and again. Love is not weakness. It is the strongest force in the universe. It heals, it rebuilds, it expands. But here's the part no one tells you. Before you can love the world, before you can lead, heal, or give, you must come home to yourself. And that journey, that sacred inner return, it's where the real transformation happens. We spend years trying to be seen, trying to be validated, trying to fit into rooms that were never built for our becoming. But when you stop trying to be what the world wants and start listening to the whisper of your own soul, you begin to walk differently. You breathe deeper. You remember you were not born to chase acceptance. You were born to embody truth. This world has more followers than leaders, more critics than creators, more noise than wisdom. But love cuts through all of it. Love is the leader. Love is the rebel. Love is the revolutionary act in a world that profits from your self-doubt. And the greatest love you will ever learn is the one you give yourself when it feels like no one else will. when you forgive the version of you who didn't know better, when you thank the version of you who held it all together, when you celebrate the version of you who finally said, I will no longer betray my soul to belong, that's when you unlock a new level of life, not just achievement, but alignment, not just progress, but peace. Because real success isn't about doing more, it's about being more of who you already are. Your spirit didn't come here to fit in. It came here to light up rooms, to shake foundations, to carry generations forward. But you can't do that while doubting your worth. So this is your invitation to stand, to rise, to remember. Remember who you were before the world told you to be small. Remember the dreams you buried to survive. Remember the fire you silenced to make others comfortable. It's still in you. It always was. The life you want is not in some distant place, not in some future version of yourself, not in someone else's timeline. It's in this moment, in this breath, in this decision to love yourself fiercely, to walk in purpose unapologetically, to be you fully, completely, unshakably, not someday, not when you've earned it, but now. Because the life you want, the love, the freedom, the peace, the power, it's not something you chase. It's something you release. So now we arrive here at the edge of your old self. This is the line in the sand. Where the past no longer defines the future, where survival ends and conscious creation begins, you've been told to wait. Wait for the right time. Wait for approval. Wait until you're ready. But the truth is, readiness isn't something you wait for. It's something you decide. You decide to rise even when your legs tremble. You decide to speak even when your voice shakes. You decide to believe even when the evidence is missing, because faith was never meant to be proven before it's practiced. And when you choose to live from that place, that sacred alignment between your soul and your steps, you become undeniable. People feel your presence, not because you shouted, but because you showed up fully, not because you were perfect, but because you were real. That's what changes lives. Not the mask, but the mirror. Not the image, but the impact. You won't find it in the applause. You'll find it in the quiet victories, the days you didn't quit, the tears you turned into fuel, the nights you sat with yourself and chose growth over escape. That's where the life you want is born. It's not created out there, it's remembered in here. It's not owned by the few, it's available to all. But only if you're brave enough to claim it. So stand tall, stand present, stand rooted in the knowing that the life you've been chasing has been waiting for you to return to it. And now there's only one thing left to do. Step into the unknown with faith in your fire. Step into your power with peace in your heart. Step into your future, not as someone seeking approval, but as someone who has finally remembered who they are. You are not here to be average. You are not here to blend in. You are here to light the way. Let the world feel your truth. Let your story be the spark. Let your presence be the permission for others to rise. Because when one person wakes up, they don't just change their life. They change the world around them. And the world has waited long enough. The life you want is not a fantasy. It's not a maybe. It's not a someday. It is here. It is now. It is you. If this message lit something inside you, if you felt seen, heard, remembered, then this journey isn't over. It's just beginning. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your highest self. Turn on your inner light. Join a community that believes in growth, in soul, in becoming. Because this space right here is where the awakened come to rise. This is not just content. It's a movement. And your next chapter is waiting. Let's write it together.